Da-da-da! What's my good cheer? Welcome, everybody. Let's give YouTube a couple of minutes to get those notifications out. In the meantime, if you've never popped into one of my lives before, hi, I'm Cindy. I explore the inside and the outside, and today was a great day because I got to explore, literally got to explore a little bit out of the outside today. I thought maybe as much of that Mother Nature that I was going to get, it was going to be the walk home from my sisters. But as the case was, I was walking over the bridge and there was a poster board. And there was a poster on it and it said, "Join us for walks." And it was a sign put together by somebody who was putting their life together. And I kind of looked over the ledge, and this gentleman was walking up towards me, and he says, "Come hang with us, right? Come join us on our walk." And it happened when I stopped at that poster board. Uh, the walk that I was reading about was happening in that moment. They were just congregated in a parking lot, and I had just stopped to take a look at the sign that says, "Come and join us for a walk." And he was a gentleman who was putting his life together. It's neat how people come across my path, but I don't think specifically he was the one that was meant to come across my path. It was another gentleman that came across my path today. And he says, come walk for us." And I'm begged. I've spent all day with my sister. We've been hard at work. It was a day off for me, but at the same time, I'm committed to my own movement over. And in that partnership, I want to be a partner and contribute my fair share. And right, not let all that work land in my sister's lap. So I went over to our house and we worked all day. It was an amazing day, but at the same time it was work, and I was tired, but I had committed, right? I need some Mother Nature. I haven't been getting out for my evening walks, and I haven't been connecting with that current, that telluric current in the ground, that energy that I get so much benefit from, and I haven't lately, right? And it's not that I haven't wanted to, it's just right that life gets us and we're just rolling in other things in the moment. And sometimes those things that are important, we look at them as not so important, or the first things to sacrifice when we've got to do something else, or right, there's another invite or something. But we'll talk about invite. This gentleman invited me to join them in a walk, and I said, "Oh, right, I think I'll do that." I was tired, right? But I understand things come across my path for a reason. And you know I don't always particularly catch them when they do, but when I do catch them, I just smile and I say, "Okay, well, let's see where this leads us," right? And so I joined them in the parking lot and introduced myself to everybody. And the gentleman who ran the walk, he walked with me, and we talked and we learned a little bit about each other. Because I understand that I work with things as they come across my path. I have this habit of, how much can I divulge? How much can I impact? How much can I influence? How much can I make a difference in this small opportunity? I may never see this person again, but we're having the most amazing conversation, most amazing interactions. Things come across my path for a reason. And then he says to me as we're walking, "Wait till you meet my friend so and so. He's the most amazing, friendly, big hearted person you'd ever want to meet." And I know those people, right? They tend quite often to be the light in their darknesses, right? Those ones that overgive of themselves, those ones that, the ones that not over divulge, right? But over care, right? Over care. And sometimes that can mean oversharing, but it's whatever that situation, that person, or that conversation needs in order sometimes for us to get a little, we talked a little bit about this yesterday, to help us get a little bit closer to somebody who might see us or somebody who might listen or hear us, somebody who might make us feel like we matter, somebody who might shine on our lives when we're so busy shining on other people's lives. We don't think to shine on ourselves, or maybe we think to shine on ourselves, but we're the first thing that we sacrifice when something comes up or somebody needs it more, right? I know these people, right? I tend to think that I might have been one of these people. Time moves, people change, we make choices, right? Things impact differently. Sometimes they impact more, sometimes in that repetitiveness of being let down or not seen or not heard, right? That we can come indifferent to it, right? As long as we just don't harden up. That's right. It's so important for us to stay soft because you know we need our neighbors and we have to be able to stay soft in order to have that opportunity to get close enough to our neighbors in order to make that connection with somebody that somebody might consider you when the sticky situation happens, right? Okay, I'm getting a little bit away from myself, but back to this topic. We had an amazing walk, but I don't think this gentleman was who I was originally meant to have an interaction with. It was somebody else in the group, and we got to have that interaction, and it made me think, about the difference between oversharing because I tend to overshare, but I don't tend to overshare because I trust, right? But I overshare despite that I don't always trust because I know sometimes that we only have a short span in order to interact, to make an impression, to possibly influence, to possibly shine on somebody else in a way that might impact them in their movement going forward, right? So it takes a strong soul because we, in our movement, we don't always feel things out in that immediate situation of need. And that's when we have to have a different kind of trust. That trust that everything is going to be okay. That trust that something came across your path for a reason, right? So it's not like we're throwing out our safety. We're not throwing out, right? We feel out the people that are coming across our paths, right? They're coming across our paths for a reason. I want to know what that reason is. At the very least, I want to know if it's good or bad. And then I'll make my judgment in that moment. But sometimes you just fly by the seat of your pants and you make the best judgment as you possibly can. And that's when we have to drum up a little bit something else, right? Because by nature, highly sensitives and empaths are not trusting, right? We have been abandoned, we have been abused, we have been betrayed, and we have been let down more times than we can probably count on hands, feet, and every other, right? It happens. It does happen. And we draw that to us because we are the light in our darknesses, right? And people feel comfortable in that. It's not like misery loves company, but sometimes misery recognizes somebody else's misery, and they can find, or they can hope for a little bit of compassion, or at the very least understanding, in being able to express themselves, maybe in the things that are bothering them, right? Maybe it's just a moment of feeling safe, right? Feeling safe, because lots of times highly sensitives and empaths and others, right? But these are the ones specifically that I am, right, addressing to, because through my own experience, that's how I teach, right? And you can't deny a true experience, and even though that's somebody else's experience, because you're highly sensitive, because you're empathic, you can feel out a truth, right? You can feel out a truth. Trust is not easily come by, right? But because we do feel things out, we become probably quite proficient in speeding up that process of finding out whether or not something is safe or unsafe enough to at very least approach. And that's the most magnificent thing when it comes, because we need to stay soft that way. We all need to stay soft that way. But because we live in a world that doesn't trust at all, right? We're not even like on another mountain with binoculars looking at each other. We're doing it online where we don't even have to touch each other. We're doing it in podcasts where we're hearing each other. And unless you're highly sensitive, unless you're empathic, you're not going to feel those emotions. You're not going to feel those tendencies out there that signal to us whether something is safe or not safe, if something can be trusted or not trusted, right? We're living in a world where we're trying to understand, right? The changes that are, well, they're already here, aren't they? We are evolving. And as people evolve, we end up with organs we no longer need. We lose our hair because right now we can put on a ski hat or a baseball cap to keep our heads warm, right? Right? We're losing our body hair because, well, we wear clothes now, right? So this is our evolution, but I suspect as many things we lose, we also we also gain, right? We also gain. I'm going to say though, a lot of that gain is in the comfort, and that's right, the comfortability of what's being served to us to make our life easier, right? We don't have to leave our couches in order to have adventures. You can, right, get a video game. I did it with my nephew and my sister last week, and I couldn't believe the adventures and the scenery and the landscapes and the reality of it, right? And they were just video games, right? Meant for my entertainment, right? Got to be careful about that. That's going to take us away from actually truly connecting with Mother Nature if we feel we can do it just by laying on the couch with a remote or a control, right? So we have to look out in this digital age and feel for ourselves, right? What's some good information? What are some good activities for us to do online? Can we make this digital age work for us rather than having this digital age serve us comforts to keep us entertained and preoccupied from what is truly going out in the world, right? And maybe that's somehow in the plans that we're supposed to move forward with blinders on our eyes. And maybe we weren't truly meant to wake up to some of these ideas, but because we did, we have a responsibility to make that experience, that adventure, whatever is happening in the moment, a little bit more comfortable for those who truly don't understand what's going on in the moment. Then again, if they're not trusting, how do we get them to be able to get a little bit closer to us so that we can, right? Rub well on somebody or make somebody feel like everything is going to be okay or make them feel like they matter or give them choices so that possibly, right, they can make a choice for themselves and make a little bit of movement by themselves. And I think also that's kind of the idea, right? So this is what, right? I'm kind of working on in that little bit of dancing around these subjects. But I think, you know, I hit on it this week, right? I think I hit on it earlier, but it didn't hit on Cindy until this week. And that was that idea of just dealing with it genuinely. And if genuinely means dancing around it until I am comfortable with that, well, that's genuine in the very least, right? That I suspect that as highly sensitive and as empaths, right? We read into things very well. We understand the truth. We understand a lie, right? And we read around the things just naturally. So I'm going to suspect if I could just carry on this way, right, until I am comfortable, I promise to do it as genuinely as I possibly can. And that's coming from a highly sensitive and as an empath that still does have issues in trusting, but she is, right? She is oversharing anyway, because I understand we might just have this moment. I might not ever, right? You might never hear from me ever again except for in this moment. And I feel that, right? So I overshare. But that could be sticky too, because in oversharing, you give somebody the opportunity in that oversharing, right? Which is usually the personal stuff, the experiences, the limiting beliefs. And sometimes, right, characters will take that information and knowing how you feel about that, will try and make that work for them, right? But what people don't realize is because I do share that, if I recognize that you're using what I shared with you as ammo, that you're trying to trigger me in my insecurities, right? If you're trying to hurt me or make me jealous, right? I'm going to feel that. If you're going to try and scare me, intimidate me, or confuse me, right? I will recognize that you're using something, right, that I freely shared with you. You just picked up that information because you knew that, And you thought it might work on me. But it won't work on me because I knew you knew that. Because it's the intent, right? It's the intent that's going to screw you every time. So better off just being genuine, just right. I'm not perfect, right? I'm not laying out all my flaws, but I do overshare, right? I do overshare. And if somebody chooses to use that against me, right? Well, I'm going to trust that the lessons I picked up along the way, if I knew that lesson, that maybe I'm ready to defend myself in those lessons, right? That it might not impact me, trigger me, right? Move me in a direction other than forward, right? That's where the trust has to lie. The trust that everything is going to be okay. And it is a different kind of trust, right? Right? It is a different kind of trust, 100%. And I recognize it when it comes into my life because it's very direct. It's what's come across my path. It is in the oddity. It is in the cheerfulness. Like it's always a big smile with it. Always. There's always a big smile with it. And there's always gratitude. And there's always that acceptance. It's really strange, that acceptance of some of these conversations and some of these subjects. Like I said, I can dance around, and yet, right, people enthralled in that conversation, right? And it just makes me a little bit more comfortable, right? And it makes it so that I understand when those things come across my path that I can trust that everything's going to be okay, even if on the norm. I'm not a super trusting person, right? There are times that it just happens. It happens so easily, comfortably, and quickly that I'm already in it by the time it's already finishing up. And that's an honest truth. Okay, you guys, right? Trust. Sometimes that trust is trusting in a little something different, right? It's trusting number one that everything's going to be okay. And secondly, right? Trust it came across your path for a reason. And I met some wonderful people today. I did. And I suspect that we will meet up again shortly, right? Because there was an exchange and there was that consideration and there was that instant connection in what came across my path. And remember, just as much as something came across my path, I came across others' paths too, right? I can't forget that, and I can't leave myself out of that equation, right? That would be a big mistake on my part. Okay, you guys, that's my good cheer. I will see you tomorrow.